There's a sign that appears only once, shortly before your old self dies to give way to the new. I'm not going to tell you what the sign is yet. First, I'm going to prove to you that the mechanism is already active within you. Take a deep breath. Exhale slowly. Now, bring to mind that feeling of emptiness, of no longer fitting into your own life. Don't fight it. Just observe it. Feel its weight in your body. Now, silently say to yourself, "This is not me. It's just the old shell breaking." Did you notice the slight change, a slight relief, a spark of distance between you and the feeling? There, you just proved that you are not the program. You are the consciousness that observes it. You've already received the first delivery. Proof that you have the power to disidentify from your pain in real time. This is the first step to escaping the mental matrix. Now, I'm going to show you why this death of your old self is so terrifying for most people and why they run back to prison. Later, I'll give you the exact tool to cross the void without getting lost. And only when your system is ready will I reveal what the birth of your new self truly means and why it is your greatest and most anticipated liberation. If you've ever felt that calling, comment, "I'm ready." Stay with me, because every part of this map is crucial. Without the complete sequence, the process isn't finished, and you risk getting stuck halfway through. Let's begin. What a man is, he carries hidden in his soul. It is impossible to escape one's own destiny, nor to rid oneself of what is the inevitable result of one's past actions. The things that once gave you a sense of purpose now seem like just tasks on an endless list. That work project that used to excite you is now just another obligation. That hobby that was your refuge now feels like a chore. The conversations that once connected you with people now sound superficial, a theater of formalities where everyone plays their part. You smile, agree, participate, but inside a part of you is screaming silently. You feel like a stranger in your own existence, speaking a language everyone understands, but which has lost its meaning for you. And the scariest thing is the loneliness this brings, even when you are surrounded by people. Most people, when they feel this, panic. They run in the opposite direction. They throw themselves headlong into work, seek new distractions, start empty relationships, buy things they don't need. They do anything to drown out that nagging voice, to fill that void with noise, because silence is terrifying. In silence, they would have to face the truth. The life they built with so much effort has become a prison, but not you. The fact that you are here, seeking answers, means that you chose the most difficult path, but the only one that leads to freedom. You stopped running. The person you believe yourself to be, the one who answers to your name, the one who holds your memories and your fears, is not you. It's a program, software installed in your mind since childhood, composed of a set of beliefs, reactions, and behaviors you learn to be accepted, to protect yourself. To survive, think about how you react when someone criticizes you. Think about the type of person you are repeatedly attracted to. Think about the worrying thoughts that circulate in your mind before you fall asleep. That's not you, that's a script running automatically. This program was useful. It helped you navigate the world, understand the rules of the social game, and avoid pain. If you grew up in an environment where love was conditional, your program learned to be a perfectionist to guarantee affection. If you suffered a great loss, your program learned not to cling too tightly to avoid suffering again. Every automatic reaction, Every limiting belief, every behavioral pattern was, at one time, a survival strategy. The problem is that the program keeps running, even when the threat no longer exists. You're not living life spontaneously. You're reliving the past every moment. The program keeps you trapped in the same cycles like a broken record. You end a painful relationship and months later find yourself attracted to someone who causes you the same pain, just with a different face. You decide you're going to take better care of your money, but when stress hits, you revert to the same spending habits that leave you in debt. It's not a lack of willpower, it's the program that's in control, always leading you to the same familiar destination. The scariest and most subtle part of all this is that you've merged with the program. You believe it's your essence. You say, "This is who I am. I'm an anxious person. I'm unlucky in love." You confuse the programming with your identity. But here's the key that can begin to set you free. If you can observe the program, if you can perceive the pattern of anxiety arising, if you can notice the repetitive thought, then who is observing? By definition, the observer cannot be what is being observed. This realization creates a small but powerful separation. For the first time, you glimpse the possibility that you are not the voice in your head. You are not your emotions. You are not your automatic behaviors. You are the consciousness behind it all, the silent presence that witnesses the program running. This simple realization is the beginning of the end of your mind's tyranny. It opens a door to a fundamental question that your old self, the program, will do everything to prevent you from answering. If you are not the program, then who are you? This question is the most feared by your current identity, because the answer to it means your death. The program, the false self, survives on your belief in it. The moment you begin to question it, it begins to lose power. It will fight, it will flood you with doubts, fears, and justifications to keep you trapped in the old story. But the seed of doubt has already been planted. And within you, there is a part that has always known all of this, a part that has never been dormant. The silent observer who records everything. That question, who are you, echoes deep within your consciousness, a place the noise of daily life doesn't usually reach. In that place resides a part of you that has always been awake. Like an ancient scribe in a silent library, this consciousness observes and records every moment of your life. Without judgment, it is the silent witness. It sees you making hopeful New Year's resolutions, and then, weeks later, watches as you slip back into old habits, almost out of inertia. She was there when you entered that new relationship, swearing that this time it would be different, that you wouldn't make the same mistakes. And she was also there, silently observing, when the old patterns of jealousy, neediness, or distance began to emerge. Transforming the new person into the same old drama, she sees you striving to achieve goals that society applauds, like a promotion or the purchase of a material possession, while registering the emptiness you feel right after the achievement. The feeling of "was that all?" She knows you're not seeking the goal itself, but the feeling you believe the goal will bring you. This part of you, the witness consciousness, has never been involved in the chaos. It is not the actress on the stage, suffering and rejoicing in the drama of the play. It is the one-person audience, the still presence, watching everything unfold. It does not identify with the character you play. It knows that you are not your anger, your sadness, or your euphoria. It knows that you are the space where all these emotions occur. It is your portion of eternity, untouched by time and suffering. And it is this silent witness that is sending you the signals. The exhaustion you feel is not tiredness from work or life. It is the profound depletion of dragging the weight of a dead identity into each new moment. It is the Herculean effort of trying to animate a body that no longer has life. The cycle of repetition has become so predictable, so painful, that the only logical way out that your deepest consciousness sees is a complete disconnection from the system, a symbolic death so that the repetition can finally cease. You believe that to change, you need to fix your flaws, get rid of your bad parts. But the silent witness knows that's not what needs to die first. Trying to kill your flaws is like trying to cut the leaves off a weed and hoping it will die. The root will remain intact and new leaves will grow. What needs to die is not the parts you disapprove of in yourself. What needs to be left behind is something much more fundamental, something you consider to be your strength. What needs to die first isn't your vices or your weaknesses. It's the identity you've built to survive them. It's the masks you've learned to wear so well that you've forgotten you were wearing them. It's the armor that protected you in the past, but which has now become your own cage. And saying goodbye to them is one of the most painful and secret processes of the human journey. A grief that no one taught you to feel. The most treacherous and painful part of letting the old self die isn't abandoning your flaws. You already know what they are, and on some level, even want to get rid of them. The real pain, the unseen grief, is abandoning the qualities you developed to survive those flaws. It's saying goodbye to the person you had to become. To endure the pain, it's the identity of the strong one, the one who never collapses because they learned they couldn't count on anyone. Letting go of that identity feels like a betrayal of yourself. It feels like weakness. Think of the person who had to become a perfectionist. They weren't born that way. They learned that love and approval only came when everything was flawless, when there was no room for error. Perfectionism was their armor against rejection. Abandoning that armor means allowing yourself to make mistakes. Allowing yourself to be vulnerable, which to your nervous system feels like mortal danger. It's like asking a soldier to drop their shield in the middle of a battle they believe is still ongoing. And what about the person who has learned to dim their own shine? The one who has incredible ideas but doesn't share them. The one who has a talent but hides it. They learned at some point in their life that shining too brightly attracted envy, criticism, or punishment. Being humble and staying in the background became their survival strategy, their armor against the world's hostility. Leaving that armor behind and allowing themselves to be seen in all their potential seems arrogant, seems dangerous. It's an act that goes against years of conditioning. These versions of yourself, the strong one, the perfectionist, the discreet one, were not mistakes. They were ingenious creations of your psyche to protect you. They were the armor that allowed you to cross the battlefields of your childhood, your adolescence, your adult life. They saved you, and that's why the grief is so profound. You're not just abandoning a habit, you're saying goodbye to a savior. You're thanking this version of yourself for the service rendered, and at the same time saying that the contract is over. Honoring these armors is the first step to releasing them. It's looking at your perfectionism and saying, "Thank you for trying to protect me from rejection. I see you. But now I am safe to be imperfect." It's looking at your need to be strong and saying, "Thank you for keeping me standing when I had no one, but now I can allow myself to be cared for." This recognition, This gratitude softens the process of letting go. You are not killing a part of yourself, you are allowing it to rest, but as long as you don't consciously say goodbye to these armors, you will remain a war veteran, living in peacetime. You will continue to react to new opportunities for love and growth with old defense strategies. The armor that once protected you from danger now prevents you from receiving affection, from feeling joy, from experiencing freedom. And when you finally begin to let go of these defenses, you don't immediately become a new person. You enter a frightening place, a place most people can't bear: emptiness. The terrifying void between two worlds. The moment you begin to shed your old armor, the identity that defined you begins to dissolve. But the new identity has not yet formed. It is in this interval that you enter the void, a liminal space, a corridor between two rooms, where you no longer belong to the place you came from, but have not yet reached your destination. This is, by far, the most frightening stage of the entire transformation. It is the desert of the soul, where everything that was familiar disappears and nothing new has yet appeared to take its place. In this space, you feel completely lost. The old certainties are gone, but the new ones haven't yet emerged. You have many questions, but few answers. You look at your life and no longer recognize yourself. You look to the future and see no clear path. It's a state of pure disorientation. Most people, upon reaching this point, panic. The discomfort is so great, the feeling of having nowhere to hold on to is so terrifying that they run back to their old identity, to the familiar prison, because at least there the pain was known. Your friends and family, who were used to your old routine, won't understand. They might say things like, "You've been acting strange lately," or "You've changed. You're not the same person anymore." And they're right, but they say it as an accusation, as if you were doing something wrong. The pressure to go back to being who you were will be immense, because your change destabilizes their system too. You'll feel profoundly alone, misunderstood, as if you're speaking a language no one else understands. But here's the truth you need to hold on to with all your might. You're not falling apart, you're dismantling yourself to rebuild yourself. What seems like a collapse is in fact a controlled demolition. The old structure needs to be completely dismantled so that a new, stronger, and more authentic one can be built in its place. This emptiness is not an absence of everything, but the presence of all possibilities. It's a dark and silent womb where your true essence, buried for years by conditioning, finally has room to germinate. It is in this sacred silence, in this apparent nothingness, that your intuition begins to speak louder. Far from the noise of others' expectations and the demands of your old routine, you can finally begin to hear your own voice. It's a whisper at first, easy to ignore, but it's there, guiding you. The void is not a place to be feared, but to be revered. It is the fertile ground where the seeds of your new self are being planted. It is in nothingness that everything becomes possible. However, navigating this unknown space requires courage and, more importantly, a specific tool. It's not a tool for construction to try and forcefully create something new. It's a tool for dissolution, to allow what is old to completely dissolve. It's an approach that goes against everything you've been taught about how to solve problems. To cross the void without getting lost, you don't need to do more. You need to do less. You need a single alchemical tool that dissolves the past without struggle. So how do you traverse this terrifying void without running back to the safety of your old prison? The answer goes against all your instincts. You stop fighting. You stop trying to fix yourself, to analyze yourself, to understand yourself. You stop trying to force a new identity to emerge. Instead, you do something radically simple. You just observe. You become a curious scientist of your own inner experience, a neutral spectator of your own mental and emotional theater. When that old wave of anxiety about the future arises, instead of being swept away by it or trying to fight it, you simply notice it. You take a step back internally and say, "Ah, interesting, there's the fear program running. Look how it tightens my chest and accelerates my thoughts." You don't judge, you don't resist, you don't identify with it. You simply observe the phenomenon happening within you. Like a meteorologist observes a storm forming on radar. When an external trigger occurs and the old reaction of anger or self-pity begins to bubble up, you notice it the moment it arises. Before it takes over and forces you to say or do something you'll regret, you recognize it. There's the version of me that learned to react this way to feel in control, or there's the part of me that feels like a victim. In this conscious and detached observation, something magical begins to happen. The pattern loses its power. You cannot be aware of the loop and remain trapped in the loop at the same time. Awareness, by itself, breaks the spell. The light of your attention acts as a universal solvent that begins to dissolve the rusty chains of habit. You are not killing your old self with the sword. You are simply stopping feeding it with your unconsciousness. An automatic pattern only has power over you when you don't see it. When you believe it is you, the moment you illuminate it with your observation, it begins to wither. This practice is not passive. It is the most powerful action you can take. It requires constant vigilance, a moment-by-moment decision not to be hijacked by your own mind. In the beginning, you will fail. You will be dragged along by the pattern and only realize it hours or days later. It doesn't matter. Without criticizing yourself, you simply notice, "Ah, I was caught by the program again," and you observe again. Each time you do this, you weaken the pattern and strengthen the muscle of your consciousness. This alchemical tool, observation without judgment, is what allows you to remain in the void without despairing. It becomes your anchor. While everything around you and within you seems to be falling apart, your ability to observe remains stable. You are learning to rest in awareness instead of in identity, and it is through this continuous practice that you prepare the ground for the most crucial moment of all, the turning point where the death of the old self is consummated and the birth of the new finally takes place. The death of the old self and the birth of the new. This is the tipping point. Through the continuous practice of observation, you are no longer merged with your thoughts and emotions. You have created a space, a clear separation between you, the observing consciousness, and the patterns, the program that is observed. It is in this space, in this distance, that the death of the old self truly happens. The false self, which was merely a set of automatic and conditioned reactions, begins to starve. It was a parasite that fed on your identification with it, and now you have cut off its food supply. And in that vacuum left by the death of the old, something new begins to sprout. It's not something you plan or design. It's something that emerges naturally from the silence. You begin to give yourself permission to be different, not to act differently, but to be genuinely different. In a situation where the old program would scream at you to react with anger, you find yourself choosing silence. Where the old self would cower in fear, you feel an impulse to take a small step forward. You start making new choices, small ones at first. You choose to listen to a different kind of music, read a book on a subject that never interested you, say no to something you always said yes to out of obligation. Each of these small choices is an act of rebellion against the old programming. Each new choice is like installing a small piece of a new operating system. At first, it feels strange, artificial, deeply uncomfortable. Your body and mind, addicted to the familiar, will scream for you to return to what was known. This discomfort is not a sign that you are on the wrong path. On the contrary, it is irrefutable proof that you are on the right path. It is the pain of childbirth. It is the sound of your muscles growing after an intense workout. It is evidence that the new you is being born, and the old one is taking its last breaths. You are no longer just fixing the facade of the old house. You have demolished the structure and are now laying the bricks of a completely new foundation, sculpting a new reality from virgin material. You realize that you don't need a grand revelation or a cataclysmic event to change. Transformation happens in those small daily choices, in those moments of conscious discomfort. Every time you choose the new response instead of the old reaction, you are rewriting the source code of your reality. Atom by atom, you are teaching your nervous system that there is a new way to live, a way that is not based on fear and survival, but on authenticity and expansion. And as you continue to make these new choices, the new you begins to gain strength and solidify. The new way of being, which once seemed strange, begins to feel natural. Authenticity, which was once an effort, begins to become your default state, and it is at this point that something curious and unexpected begins to happen in your outer world. Your inner transformation begins to generate an inevitable side effect on the people and circumstances around you. When your new self begins to stabilize, when your authenticity is no longer an act but your very nature, a curious phenomenon occurs. You become unrecognizable, not physically but energetically. People who knew your old program, your old vibration, begin to look at you differently. They can no longer read you as before. Your new presence is an enigma to them, and this can be profoundly destabilizing for those who were accustomed to your previous version. People who, consciously or unconsciously, benefited from your former limitations will be the first to react. The friend who felt superior because of your insecurity now feels threatened by your newfound confidence. The family member who was used to seeing you as the victim who needed help now doesn't know how to relate to your newfound autonomy. They will say you've changed not as a compliment, but as a veiled accusation, a lament for the loss of the person they could control or predict. They will try to pull you back. They will make comments to make you doubt yourself. They will bring up your past mistakes to keep you tied to your old identity. They will try to fit you back into the small box you used to fit into, because your expansion forces them to look at their own limitations. This is the ultimate test of your transformation. Is your loyalty to their perception of you, or to the truth that now emerges from within your own being? Every time you stand firm in your newfound authenticity, without apologizing for your evolution, you anchor your new reality more deeply. Every time you refuse the invitation to return to the old drama, you strengthen your new self. You learn to say, "Yes, I have changed," with a serene smile, understanding that their reaction is not about you, but about them. Freedom has a price, and often that price is disappointing the people who only loved your prison because it validated theirs. You will begin to notice that some friendships and relationships dissolve naturally, without arguments, simply due to a frequency incompatibility. And at the same time, new people will begin to appear in your life. People who resonate with who you are becoming, who celebrate your light instead of feeling overshadowed by it. Your outer world begins to reorganize itself to reflect your new inner landscape. You are no longer forcing connections, you are attracting alignment. This process of social readjustment can be lonely for a while, but it's a fertile loneliness. It's proof that you're no longer willing to diminish yourself to make others feel comfortable. You're choosing yourself, perhaps for the first time in your life. And in doing so, you discover that the goal wasn't just to become a new person. The goal was something much deeper and more liberating, the freedom to not have to be anyone at all. The freedom to be nobody. As you settle into your newfound authenticity and your external world realigns, you begin to perceive an even deeper truth. The ultimate goal of this entire journey was not to exchange an old, flawed identity for a new, perfect one. To exchange one prison for another, even if the new one is more beautiful, the true goal, the ultimate freedom, is to reach a state where you no longer need to cling to any fixed identity. You discover the freedom to be nobody in particular. This doesn't mean you lose your personality or become a blank slate. On the contrary, it means you become fluid, adaptable, present. You are no longer operating from a script. Whether old or new, you are responding to each moment with the totality of your being, free from the chains of the past and the projections of the future. You no longer need to be the spiritual one, the successful one, or the healed one. You simply are, and in that being, there is a peace that no identity can offer,